Hi there, this is Jennifer. Welcome to Crafting in Carrollville. You just got your subliminal message to subscribe, share, like, comment, all the things. These are some of the projects we're going to be working on today, some of the materials anyway. Still upcycling through my stash. Listen, I've sped this part way up because it is completely irrelevant to the finished product. I end up not loving it and I get rid of it. I am using what they call temporary tattoos as transfers. Don't worry about it if you want to know more about them. We're going to do a project in this video where I use them. This just isn't it. Listen, sometimes crafting is a metaphor for life. And this week's metaphor is make everything more complicated than it needs to be. Don't do anything simple. Here I am trying to complicate things again with these script letters. I don't really want those on there. You're going to see in the finished product that none of this applies to actually what this is going to look like when it's finished, because like I said, I just way overcomplicated this project right from the start. And then I get to the simplicity of it and I actually really love it. So as you can see, I'm using molds to mold clay, and I am going to fill this whole little piglet with clay. I love this part of the project, and this is the part that I retain. So don't worry, I'm not going to wad up all this clay and be done with it. I'm going to meticulously place all of these molds in my little piglet. It's going to take a while. It's a little tedious. I knew right away when I saw this little chalkboard pig what I was going to do with it at the bins. I got this at the bins, and I had an idea that this would make a great little sculpture project, and I was right. You could very easily replicate this project by cutting out with your jigsaw or your scroll saw this pig shape on a board and then putting a backer behind it. If I were to do this again, or if I were to replicate this, I would make it smaller. This is about a 16 by 20 inch board that we're working on here. So that pig's pretty big. It's going to take a lot of clay to fill it up. I used almost an entire package of air dry clay. I'm using the DOS brand air dry clay. I really love this project in the end, and you're going to see throughout this video, the theme of this video is chaos. I just want you to know, because sometimes your life is a little chaotic, and that was our week. I do have to remember that that does not need to apply to my craft room, my workshop. That's where I go to sort of de-stress and unwind, and unfortunately that mentality sort of followed me in this week, and I had to expel it because I really I love for crafting to be peaceful and relaxing and something that I love to do, and it is. But this week, I had to remind myself of that. I'm using my X-Acto blade to make sure that I'm creating or, retaining that border that is cut out around that pig. And I'm also cutting some of my flowers in half and just placing half of them along the edges. Now I'm painting all of these molds. I know I've sped this up super fast, but you get the idea of what I'm doing, and I don't think it would be super relaxing or helpful for you to have watched me fill that entire pig up with molds. I'm doing repair work as I go. If painting molds that aren't quite dry knock anything loose, I just re-glue it. I'm using wood glue. I used wood glue to glue all these down. At this point, I'm realizing that it's way too busy in the background, and really what I wanted was for that pig to pop out. I wanted the pig to be the artwork, and I'm realizing as I go that I'm not super happy with the transfers that I put on the background there, and it's not going to be a permanent thing like I mentioned, and I'm fine with that. Crafts evolve. Our original vision is probably the best. So my original vision for this was just to fill the pig up with clay molds and paint them and let that be the artwork. I should have gone with that. But like I said, the theme of my week was Let's overthink things. Let's stress out about things that we can't do anything about, you know. And I think we all fall prey to that sometimes, but I just had to remind myself that, you know, God's in control. And my husband, bless his heart, came out to my workshop and prayed for peace, and that really helped. And I'm thankful to have a husband who will pray for me and pray peace over me. Therefore, he prays peace over himself, right? So, I mean, you know, let's face it. A happy wife is a happy life, I've heard. Now I'm brown waxing all those molds. The paint is dry. I love this part of any project. I think I mention it every time I brown wax. I'm using Dixie Belle's Best Dang Wax in brown, and I'm wiping it back with the baby wipe. That's what we do. And this is where the artwork really starts to happen for me, and I totally realized that I didn't need those other flowers in the background. I'm sad that they went to waste, but they were temporary tattoos that I bought on Amazon. They were super cheap, and I'm going to create an Amazon store soon, so y'all will always have access to the things that I use in my videos. I do know that that's super important because y'all are asking me constantly where I get my supplies. So I need to get to that. I need to just dedicate a time to sit down and create an Amazon store. Still using wax to enhance all the details of those molds. So pretty. I love how this project turned out in the very end. It's still not to the point where I'm in love with it, but it's getting there. And you know what? I left all of this in the video, all my oopsies and my mistakes, because I want you to see that even if you craft for a living and you know you're a professional artist, crafter, whatever you are, there are still days when you're not at your best. And so this was one of those days, but I stuck to it. You know, sometimes for me anyway, sometimes it just becomes about winning. Like I gotta win, like I gotta beat this, I gotta do it. And that's what happened here. Now I'm coming back with some of that same white paint on a dry brush, and I am just hitting all the highs on those molds to make them pop further. That gives them a little more brightness, and it makes you really, really pick up on those details. I love that too. I love it. The brown wax sort of diminishes the color. Now I'm adding a frame to this, and this part of the frame is just a 1x2 furring strip. I'm going all the way around my picture with this wood, and I'm not mitering the corners at this point. I'm creating a shadow box frame. I'm just doing a butt-up frame because I'm going to come back with trim pieces and cover the front of that frame. So furring strips are super cheap at Home Depot. This trim board I got at Home Depot as well. It's 76 cents a foot, but the cashier gave it to me for free because they couldn't find the SKU number on it, and I wasn't going back to get another one at that point. So they just handed it to me and let me walk out the door. Here I am using my brad nail gun to secure the pieces that I've measured and mitered onto the front of my picture. I just use my miter box to create that frame. Super simple. It takes like 2 seconds to saw through that trim board. Now I'm painting it the same color that I painted the molds. Running out of my plaster chalk paint. I'm gonna have to run and get some more pretty soon. Actually, I'm not. I'm just going to do without it, and I'm going to mix up paint that I already have. That's what I'm going to do. Remember, we're still upcycling through my hoard, my horrendous hoard that came from the bins. So we're still doing that. It's important. Got to get her done. Now here I am painting all those transfers out, and guess what? The more I paint them out, the more I love this project, because it came back to the original idea I had, was a simple, you know, rendition of this pig with molds in it. So that's the artwork, and I absolutely love the way this turned out in the end. Sometimes it just takes, you know, trial and error, making a couple mistakes, So let yourself work through those mistakes and make something great. Don't ever ditch a project because you think you've ruined it. Just, paint fixes a lot of things. I'm going to come back in with that same brown wax and wax up my trim pieces on my frame. Okay, I'm going to quit saying that. People complain about it all the time. I'm going to stop saying that. So, I'll say so instead. So, now we have our frame all finished. Again, I love the way this project turned out. Now I'm going to show you, these are not actually called temporary tattoos, but they're the exact same thing. They're made the same way. They're printed in reverse. They act exactly the same. These are called Dress My Craft transfers. They're from Amazon. And I just cut out the one that I want, and I'm going to put one on every piece of white or light colored stuff that I have in my workshop. Again, crafting through my workshop, that's what I'm doing, crafting through my hoard. I'm going to lay it face down on my surface, and then I'm going to take a sponge that is very wet and wet the entire surface. You can see when it's wet, you can see the image through the paper. So you just want to saturate it completely. You can't get it too wet. And then you just want to slide it off, just like that. Very similar to water slide paper, much more simple. There you go. No sealing, no sealing beforehand. But after you transfer the image, you definitely need to seal it. I'm going to come back in with a sealer that is consistent with all of these finishes. So if my finishes on my projects are glossy, I'm going to give it a glossy seal. If it's a matte finish, I'll use a matte spray. So that's what I'm doing here with these temporary, actually no, these are not temporary tattoos. These are called transfers. They just act a different way than your normal rub-on transfers. They work just as well. I love how they really do dress up your crafts. And again, they do have to be sealed, so I'm going to spray them with a glossy sealer before it's all said and done. Love the way those turned out, and I just did a bunch of things, odds and ends that I had lying around in my workshop. Here they are. These are things that I clearly bought to upcycle, and that's what they got. They got an upcycle super quick. Just things that I can have in my booth that will definitely sell. People love little containers. I love the way those little cups turned out. Super cute. Alright, now I'm doing this little picture that I showed you in the beginning of the video. I'm painting it with a color called Grotto. It is a folk art paint. It's a chalk paint, so it's going to stick right to that metal pitcher, metal watering can. I just give it one good coat, let it dry. Oh, so I wanted to tell you another good reason to work through your hoard, craft through your stash, whatever you want to call it, is you find a lot of hidden treasures. I found some great things in my workshop, and one of the things that comes to mind is I found an old silver hand mirror. Let me interrupt myself to say that I am applying Rub and Buff for our next project to this little handle. You'll see where that comes from as we go. Anyway, I found this little mirror and I absolutely loved it. I wanted to craft with it, but when I looked at it, I realized it was sterling silver. So I took it to a pawn shop and sold it for, $90. So anyway, I couldn't have gotten that much for it as an upcycle, obviously. So sometimes you find hidden treasures that you don't realize you had. So I'm encouraging you, craft through your stash, go through your hoard, see what you got, and if you can, sell it. I've been doing that. I've been listing things on Marketplace as I go, just things that I thought I would use that I'm not going to use. And, if I bought it for 50 cents, there's a good chance that I'm going to get $10 or $20 for it on Marketplace. So do that. Remember those daisy transfers we used in our last video? Don't worry, I just got rid of the rest of those if you were watching. Okay. Now I'm using this Dixie Belle transfer to apply to my metal pitcher. I'm cutting out the images that I want. I'm going to apply a transfer to both sides so that its new owner can use it either which way they want to use it. These Dixie Belle transfers are old. I know that I did a thrift haul last year featuring a bunch of things that I hauled off of Facebook Marketplace, and these were in that particular video. I got many dozens of Dixie Belle products for $5 each, no matter what they were: transfers, paint, finishes, whatever it was. Okay, now we're ready to work on my bread box. This is another one of those projects that it just didn't go for a while, and then it went. I just showed you where I put that handle in case it comes up missing. It's in the galvanized bucket, okay? So, or the enamelware bucket. I'm painting this bread box a color called Dry Sage, and this is a Dixie Belle paint. It's a great self-leveling chalk paint. It's all you want as far as coverage, and it's a great paint. I've had this paint lying around my workshop forever, so I've got to use it. Even if I don't love the colors, I'm just using it. I'm putting things together. I am determined to craft through my stash. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm super motivated by the fact that it's not just a crafting adventure. It's what do I have in here? What treasures can I possibly sell elsewhere, or, just get rid of? So that's what I've been doing. Super fun. Just making sure I don't paint my holes closed there as I go. And also, listen, this is what I'm doing. I'm trying to open the door of the bread box and stick something in there. I stick the wrong things in there a few times. Don't worry about me. And then I finally get it to the point where it's going to stay open while I paint it, because I don't want it to seal shut as I paint it. You know what I mean? Like I said, if you wanted to watch a video featuring crafting chaos, you are at the right place this time. It's not always this way, I promise, so don't let me scare you. Stick around if you're new. I promise it's not always this crazy, but like sometimes crafting is a little chaotic. That was just the week I had. I'm sorry. Nobody's more sorry than me, trust me. Like, I just want it to be over. Anyway, I'm not painting the inside of this bread box. Obviously, I want it to be food safe. It's a bread box, so just painting the outside. I did paint the back. I did not paint the bottom, or maybe I did. No, I didn't. What I did was, oh no, yeah, I did. I did paint the bottom actually, and I painted the back. I just didn't paint the inside. I think that's the way it went. Anyway, not that you care, but but people always ask me, do you paint the backs of your projects? And yes, I do. Unless I have a very specific reason for not painting it. Sometimes, like in the case of vintage saws that I do, things like that, I want people to know that, look, this was the real thing. This was not a nice shiny saw that I bought at Home Depot. This is the real deal. So sometimes I want people to know that. This did take a couple coats to cover that wood grain. Didn't bother me at all. I had time this week to really contemplate things in my workshop, so painting was a good exercise for me. Sometimes it's just really, honestly, the mundane things that sort of bring you back to, the relaxing state of mind that you want to be in when you're crafting. So I kind of needed that this week. I needed just to unwind and let the creativity flow or not flow, or whatever it was. And normally that's so not an issue for me. Normally I'm able to just keep those creative thoughts coming, but it was a bit of a struggle this week in particular. Anyway, I'm sorry I've left this dead space in there. I'm not sure what that's about. Don't know where I went. Sometimes we play Where's Jennifer in my craft room. I'm sorry about that. Apparently I was getting a transfer. That's what I was doing. This is another of those Dixie Belle transfers. It's called, oh my goodness. Well, I don't remember what it's called, but it's honestly just a script, a handwriting script that you use as a background. That's all it is. It takes a while to to do these little lines of text this way, and I found out the best way is not to be random about it, not just, just go line by line. So that's really the best way to do it, because you can actually see the opaqueness happening in your carrier sheet as you go. So that helps me. I try, in the real world where I don't see very well, I kind of move around by feel a lot of the times, but this is something I can actually see happening. So, and I just peel the transfer back as I go to make sure it's actually transferring. Same thing we all do. And I came in from the edges because I'm going to put something else in the middle here. So it didn't really matter to me if I had a continuous text through the middle of this breadboard, but it did matter to me that the text went all the way to the edges, if that makes sense. So I ended up cutting the width of this so that I could start from each end. It wasn't wide enough to span the entire bread box, but this helped it get there. So that's what that's about. That's why I'm working in pieces here. Don't want you to be confused. Now this is one of the parts of this bread box that actually stays the same, because we have the same issue on this bread box that we had with my little piggy. I just decided I was going to overcomplicate this and make it way more I don't even know what the word is, because it was not like aesthetically pleasing to me, but I just wanted to overcomplicate it. That was the story of my life this week. Overcomplicated every decision in life and in my craft room. So, and I'm not even being hard on myself. I'm just telling you the truth. So, here we go, working out that other side. I love the way this script is just naturally distressed. It's not because it's been sitting around a while, or, the letters have worn off. It was just printed out this way. And I like that, because that's sort of going to be a theme in this little bread box. It's going to be a little distressed and, a little tattered, whatever. Aren't we all? I'm not going to use this breadboard for my bread box for myself. I have one already that I need to redo that's on top of my refrigerator. But I am going to haul this to a show or two and see if it sells. Again, this was one of those projects that grew on me, and in the end I really love the way it turned out. Didn't love it about halfway through, but I want to tell you something. As a creator, I create artwork. Y'all know that. Every project I ever work on gets to the point where I literally want to chuck it. Like, I don't want to do it anymore. I'm not loving the way it's turning out. I'm discouraged, whatever it is. But I find that if I just keep working on it, if I just sit down and stay the course, it turns into something beautiful. And that is so important. I mean, it's so important to not give up on your vision, or, just in life. I mean, isn't it though? And I'm telling myself these things because I need to hear them. So I'll probably have to come back and watch this video a few times to hear myself say, don't give up. Because those are constructive words for everybody. This is from a different transfer, these flowers, and I think I did show you a picture of it earlier in the video, so if you could catch the name. But these transfers are really seriously old, so I imagine they're retired at this point. I don't know how Dixie Belle operates their stuff, if they do the same thing as IOD, but these are probably kind of obsolete, because I bought them at least a year ago, and she'd had them in her garage for quite some time. One of the local stores around us got severely damaged in Hurricane Ian, and they had to give up their location and just sort of liquidate their business. They decided not to reopen. So she brought all of her Dixie Belle products home, everything she was a stockist for and just sold it at just rock bottom prices. So I was the benefactor of some of that. She had so much stuff. Oh my goodness. It was one of those things where you hated to see it happen, but you couldn't help but be a little gleeful that you could benefit from something so great. Anyway, I'm sorry about the noise in the background. My dog Dixie is outside barking at there's a number of things she could be barking at. It could be a shadow, it could be a squirrel, it could be a lizard, a bird, the Amazon guy, I don't know. Whatever it is, she's on it. I feel very safe, sequestered here in my office with the door closed. I know I'll be safe because Dixie will stop anything bad from coming here. So I'm loving this part of it. This part does not change. I love the way that turned out. I just used that carrier sheet to burnish that transfer down, and then I'm extending that horn because I accidentally cut it off. I just took a piece off the one that was going to have a natural overhang. Now this is where things go terribly wrong. I used this Chalk Couture stencil to put text on this board. This is the text I want, but it turns out it's just too dainty for the transfer that I'm going to put on the front. It just doesn't work. So I do it. I let it stay there for a minute or two. I like to sort of live with my projects, even if I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with the way they're going. I ruminate on it for a little bit, but this one bothered me so much that I think I got up in the middle of the night and painted over it. I literally went to bed not happy with the project, woke up not happy with the project, and just knew that I wasn't going to leave those letters there in that state. So, it was a good thought. It just wasn't going to work. It was too dainty, and I wanted big, bulky letters. And you'll see the tone of this project changes quite a bit from now until the time I finish it. I don't even know why I'm bothering. I'm fixing up these letters. I'm trying to salvage it is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to tell myself it's going to be okay. I'm going to go ahead and work with it. Once again, it's about winning. Like I can't just let things go this week. Just been one of those times. And then I decided I'm going to put these grain sack stripes down the side, and that's a fail. That's not what I want. It just didn't go the way I wanted it to go. I'm showing you all this so you can see that, listen, sometimes crafting just does not come together the way that we want it to. Sometimes we just have to work through it and understand that, well, it was a good thought. It just didn't work on this project. So let's shelve that. Let's get back to, doing what we love in a way that we love. And, it'll all work out. It's just crafting, seriously. So here we are. I'm gonna put this transfer on the front, and it's gonna stay. Don't worry. I'm done wasting transfers for this particular video. I've done it, tried it. Don't really want to do it again. So I'm just cutting off a part of a transfer that I want to cover the majority of this board, but I still want to leave. I still want to leave enough empty space. I really love the slats and the shutter look of this bread box. I don't love all bread boxes. I don't love the ones that roll. I think they're a little difficult to work with, and I don't necessarily love the look of them. I'm just transferring the way that we all do. We're using that transfer stick to burnish that transfer down, and you can see as you're working that the translucent paper becomes very opaque and you can't see through it anymore. It becomes very cloudy. So just keep rubbing until it gives. You can kind of feel it and see it sort of lose its seal. And I didn't love the way some of that transferred into the cracks, but I'm coming through with an X-Acto knife and cutting the transfer to make sure that it lays into those cracks. And then I'm also sanding things down. This is just a low grit sandpaper that I'm going to sand things down, distress them a little bit. I love that distressed look. It's just part of the farmhouse feel. Now here I am, for some reason I've decided that that transfer was not enough, and I am going to attempt to add a bunch of little bits and pieces to the edges of the front. And I'm sorry I'm not showing that to you. Now I'm going to show you. Oh, I do add this butterfly, and I do let the butterfly stay. I only wish that I had turned him in a little bit instead of having him straight up and down like that. That's what I get for working upside down. I'm working upside down, and I don't need like any hindrance to my vision. I need to see it all. So I shouldn't have done things that way, but I did. I wish I would have tilted him inwards a little bit. I think that would have been more aesthetically pleasing. But in the meantime, I'm going to keep adding these transfers. They don't belong there. Like, there's no reason for those to be there. I do not love them. They really don't make sense. They're very dainty compared to the bulk of the flowers down here, and that's the problem, is that these flowers are big and bulky. They're beautiful, but they're big, and so everything else is just too dainty for that. There's no balance, and for me, that's very important. My eyes pick up on that sort of thing right away, and I know that that's the problem with what I'm doing here. But I left it in here, again, because I want to show you that everything is salvageable. We just keep working at it. And not every project is like this, I promise. If it was, I probably wouldn't do this, to be honest. And I think in all my YouTubing career thus far, a little over a year, these are the first projects that I've worked on that just were not pleasing to me until I fixed them. So just remember that. We don't have to be perfect at anything, because we just are what we are. We are human beings. We're all down here just trying to people. Anyway, I'm coating everything with clear wax. That's what we do. And everything that you've seen me work on thus far, you know what that is? That is called King James speech. Like, that's straight from the Bible right there. We don't need to use that word anymore. Everything so far, I said earlier I was going to use the word so. Everything so far has been sealed. Now I've decided I'm going to go and I'm going to make this stencil on my Cricut. I do that, and you're going to see even that turns into something that I hate. You'll see at the very end of this video in the reveal how this turns out. It turns out lovely. I love it, actually, but it took me a long time to get to that point. So you're going to see when I lift up this vinyl, it pulls the paint. This has just been, trust me. And that was all me. I just didn't let the paint dry. All me. But I hope you've enjoyed this absolute chaotic video. I hope you love the projects, and I hope you realize that, this will probably be the last video I do like this, where I show you all the chaos, and hopefully it'll be the last time I have this amount of chaos. But I wanted you to see that sometimes that's how things go. If you love this video, if you like what you see here, like, share, comment, subscribe, all those things. You're going to see at the end, see, I fix it. I love the way this turned out, and I'm just going to remember that we can pray the chaos out of our lives. We can ask God for peace, and that's what I'm going to remember, is our daily bread. So every day we have to pray good things over ourselves and over our family. So I'm going to leave you with that. I hope that y'all have a great week. I hope I see y'all next week. Hope you enjoyed our projects, and we'll talk again real soon. Thank you so much.